A pleasure to meet all at last, and welcome to HJN once again. For this piece of Honest J Nowak, we're going to take a look at a known process. I know I've talked a bit about insulation as not only a material commonly used for keeping homes warm or cool during the summer or winter, but one other thing we can talk about in regards to a certain process is known as freeze drying. This is number 2687, and what better way to make this episode possible than to get started. As the name itself implies, freeze drying is the unique process of utilizing cold in order to help preserve something. Typically what can happen is that it's a pre-made food, such as ice cream sandwiches, frozen vegetables, or chicken. Of course, those are made to be frozen because of the usage of freeze drying. Often what happens is that such foods can be prepped, typically by cooking them, while some foods might also be raw just as well. But a majority of frozen products out there that are often made so they can be around for long-term storage, especially if you're not the kind of person who wants to have any sort of preservatives or anything of the sorts, the natural process of freezing your items can always help benefit for the longest periods of time that you might want them through, even though it might procure some of its own risks. But apart from that though, with freeze drying, it comes as a different whole process entirely. Because after all, in some instances, it's not only about keeping things cold, but some things that might normally be cold can be made to room temperature. For instance, there's ice cream sandwiches that are known to be freeze dried. They're dubbed astronaut ice cream because they were commonly used throughout the days of flying through the stars. NASA has, in fact, utilized freeze drying technology as a means to create unique, potable meals for long-term storage and, of course, for long-term usage. It's in a similar regard as to how MREs are put together, in which that meals ready to eat are put together by various members of the government, military, etc., in order for them to last for a long time, but most importantly, especially if you're in a certain situation that might require you to have a good meal ready to go, while hopefully not ending up in a pickle. But that is, of course, the unfortunate truth in some people, especially if they're not the kind that has the survival instinct or skill sets needed in order to find their own food. The process of hunting and foraging typically is not made for everybody, and everybody has their own unique personality, traits, and many other things. And so, with freeze drying comes along in the same regard as to how MREs are put together. Some meals are in fact made to be freeze dried for space in the same way as MREs are made for members of the government, possibly out there in a large jungle or something far away from most civilization. And even more so if there happens to be no food sources around. Animals or whatnot, fish, nothing. But the bottom line though is that these tend to work in tandem pretty well together. I probably ought to make a separate episode for MREs at some point though. I'll probably save that for some other time. But overall, with freeze drying, it's a unique process. One of which that does allow for cold to be put together. And it also allows for everything to become less messy. This does allow for meals to become a bit more easier to handle and or consume in the events that you might be in a different place, such as the stars, which is technically when freeze drying was most benefited. Anyways though, I don't have much more to say about this, so I'll just go on for tomorrow's subject. And if you want to see that and other things on the channel, make sure to like, subscribe, comment, follow me wherever you can find me, and stay on the Hollywood side.